Well, folks, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today's session. Today's session is on how to manage tariffs in CSD. And our presenter today is Mark Patterson. Mark Patterson has been with NSA for quite some time. We'll do a little bio intro in just a minute. This is Professional Services webinar number 71. We are recording the session today, so everybody will be getting a copy of that. And I would ask that if you have questions during the session, you please enter them into the chat box. We will have time at the end to make sure we get those addressed. And with that, we will continue on. Mark, if we can just forward the slide. So, my intro, I'm Brian Weaver. I'm the VP of Sales at NSA. And hold on, we got to just mute a couple folks here, guys. There we go. So I'm welcoming all you folks for today's session. Thank you all for joining us today. Next slide. So I'd like to introduce Mark. So Mark Patterson has been with NSA for some time. He's a senior consultant, and he's been helping folks with their Cloud Suite implementations for quite a while. Before joining NSA in 2020, he held an executive IT operations role at a major sporting goods distribution company, where he implemented their ERP system on SXE and TWL. Mark also has experience, I'll let him talk more to this, in setting up the tariffs system within cloud or within SXE. So he certainly has a lot of experience in that arena. Next slide. So I'll let Mark go ahead and continue on, and welcome all to today's session.
Mark, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
You're all set.
Yeah. I think I got muted with the mute all button. All right. So today's agenda. So welcome. Thanks, Brian, by the way, for the intro, and welcome everybody. The agenda for today. A little bit of background on CSD functionality with tariffs, when it came into be, how it works, how it doesn't work. Trying to carve out, can it help you or not, depending on the type of importing you do for foreign goods. Once that's clear, we're going to go and do some setup, how to set up tariffs, products, vendors, GL, commercial invoices. We'll do all the setup, and then we'll do a demo, actually walk through. I'll show you journal entries, PO receiving, commercial invoice printing, go through all those. Then we'll hit some tips and tricks. Tips and tricks, I think, will answer a lot of your questions. We've had a lot of calls in the last month or so, ran into a lot of client questions, solved a lot of issues, and I think clarified what are popular misunderstandings of what can and can't be done in the system. So hopefully I'll cover that in the tips and tricks. And then after that, it's a Q&A session for you guys, where we'll go through the questions that you submit throughout as I'm presenting. All right, so funny story. Back in 2012, I actually worked with Infor at the distributor I was at, where we co-deved the enhancement to the latest tariff functionality that you see today. If you're on 6.1 or prior of GUI, there is tariff functionality, but the full-blown what's in there today came out around 10.0.1.0, where the general availability came out of some of the stuff that was developed in 2012. So it's kind of funny. I look back and I see the stuff that we developed back in 2012 is now in there for everybody. But looking forward to showing it to you. So we've fielded a lot of calls recently. From that, I gleaned, what are some common questions, and I think there's some things worth clarifying. So what's the definition of a tariff? So it's obviously a tax imposed by one country on the goods or services from another. The country of origin, along with the product, is what dictates the rate for the duty. But there's what we call HS codes, and the World Health Customs Organization has a website where you can, all the different products are categorized, and the idea is you figure out what category your products belong in, you assign that HS code to your product, and that, along with the country you're importing it from, decides on the rate you pay. Now, all of this is complicated. You got to get this in the system, but it's your duty, it's your broker who typically would assess your duties payable as you're importing your products. Two kinds of importers is what I'm running into, and it's not always clear what the difference is in terms of how you would have to treat it. So the first item here is if you are the importer of record. That's if you purchase the item. So you enter a purchase order and the vendor you're dealing with is in another country. Your PO price that you pay that vendor is not changed by the tariff. You've been paying them something for years and years. It's unchanged by the tariff. They make the same money as always. You are invoiced for tariffs separately, typically from your broker. CSD can add that tariff to the average cost and accrue for the tariff. That's our typical scenario. That's how the system was built. That's who CSD was built for, importer of record. However, the other scenario is you're not the importer of record, so you're purchasing from a local vendor. They bought this product from outside the country, so you're not paying that tariff directly. Your PO price, however, has gone up noticeably or will go up. So CSD tariff functionality is not built for that. Basically, your costs have just gone up. So, managing tariffs in CSD. What can it do? So we're going to demo a functionality of this. So upon receiving a PO in the system, in CSD, right, the HS and country of origin will be loaded from a product warehouse record, which is ICSW. And when you receive that PO, the extra amount you paid in the tariff can get added to your average cost. It can get added to your inventory, and your debit to inventory will be greater, and the system can accrue for what you have to pay your broker. Other functionality that CSD will get you is when you're actually selling that, if you're ever selling the product outside of the country. Okay, so on a sales order. So that's if you're an exporter. That probably doesn't cover most people on this call, but the tariff functionality in CSD does cover this. For this, there is no GL impact. There is the ability to print a commercial invoice. Okay, a lot of people aren't aware of that. And you can print it regardless of the stage that invoice is in, unlike a normal invoice, right? So we're going to show that. So, I guess what we'll do here is just dispel a few things that have been brought up to us, and I'm assuming a lot of you have these same questions. So CSD was designed for a tariff that's stable, right? Because there's a considerable amount of setup required to go to the SKU level and assign HS codes. So what we're getting, and I got them in quotes here because I'm actually quoting customers, is I don't want to go and change all my data, or I want to show my tariffs separately on my invoice for a few reasons. One, I don't want my customers thinking all of a sudden I've added a whole bunch to my price. And I just want to make that clear. So what's coming out is customers calling and saying, okay, this is what I want to do. And they want to put a separate line on their sales invoice that says tariff. And so if it was a 5-line order, it'll end up being a 10-line order because they want to put all these tariff lines on there. The other thing that's coming up to us is, well, how about we put that tariff as an add-on, right? So these things are possible, but as soon as you start putting the revenue that you're charging on a sales invoice on something other than the product, your margins are going to be wrong, which is not sustainable, okay? So this is what's been coming our way. Typically, by the time we get off a call with a client, they've realized this is something we have to track properly. Putting it as an add-on is a very temporary solution, but it messes up your margins per product. Creating separate SKUs does about the same thing. So usually they realize that's not going to work too well on the long term. It may get you through the short term, but the true CSD functionality is you've got to go and change your product data. All right, so what is tariff functionality in CSD? For importers, which is most of you, for tariff goods purchased from a foreign vendor, in CSD, when you receive a PO, there'll be a tariff accrual for what, that, let's say that 20% you're going to pay to your broker, and the average cost goes up. Second functionality in CSD, with tariffs is for exporters. For goods sold to a customer outside your country, that sales order invoice, CSD can generate a commercial invoice, which would display the HS codes and country of origin. All right, so we're ready to do a little bit of a demo here, but I'm going to do some setup first. So we're going to go and I'll show you how to set up a country of origin. Okay, and here's the tables. Then we'll go and set up, I guess, an HS code with the country of origin on it. And there's the table code there. Then we'll go set up a vendor, and then I'll go through setting up some products. So I'm currently logged in to a demo environment. And I'm going to show you how to do a country of origin. So we go to the very common table, SASTT, or the table code value setup, where all the tables are set. And within here, there's a country. Depending on when you loaded CSD, you could have 100 plus countries here already, or you could have very, very few like I have right here. But these are created manually just by clicking new. You can import to this table if you had 100 plus countries you wanted to import. The data conversion programs are what makes that possible. So there's one specifically for SASTT. So the one I'm going to work with today, and the demo for today is, the assumption is we're working in a US instance of CSD. So I'm a US company, and I have a Canadian vendor that I'm going to buy from. So that's our scenario. So our country of origin is Canada. So that's why I've set up this country, Canada. All right, I'm going to go click on this one. It's a code and it's a description. There's not much more functionality in here regarding tariffs. It's simply setting up the country. All right. Next step would be actually going to set up the tariff codes. So it's the tariff rate setup menu, or SASGT. And here I've gone and set up some, what is the common format for an HS code. But you could type in the word tariff here if you want. But the concept is you're going to have, many different ones respecting the normal HS setup, where you actually take into account the type of product you're selling and get the proper HS code that applies to that product. So in this case, I've set up the same HS code. It'll get assigned to a product. But let's say I purchased this product from two different countries. One with Canada with a 20% duty rate, China with a 30%. So you can set these records up here. The GL code is to credit the duty payable. So imagine you do a purchase order receipt. You buy an item for $100. You're going to debit the inventory for an extra 20%. So it'll be 120 because your inventory will go up by the tariff amount. You're going to credit your unmatched invoice for the $100 you owe your vendor, and then you're going to credit the remaining $20 to a tariff payable account, anticipating that broker invoice that's going to come in after you do your importing. Right, so that's your tariff setup. So you've got your 1011 as your HS code and country of origin. After that, we're going to go and show the company that I've set up. I just want to show you SASC. I happen to be in a company that, if you look here, you can see I'm logged into a company 2323. That company is set as a US company. That's what most of the audience today would be, possibly Canada, but this one's US. The currency is set as US, okay? But I'm going to set up a vendor or work with a vendor that's in Canada. And what's critical here is the country code on the vendor cannot equal my company setup. If it does, the tariff functionality will not accrue. It will not increase your average cost by the tariff amount. So even if you go to ICSW on all your products and set up your HS codes and your country codes, when you go to your PO receiving, the system looks at the country of your vendor, and if it's the same as your company country, no tariff gets accrued. Okay, so let's go to this vendor. I happen to have one all ready to go. This guy right here. So this is my Canadian vendor. If I scroll down, I've got in orange the country. As you can see, it's not equal to US, it's Canada. And if I scroll down a little further, the currency code is blank. Blank means same as your company currency, but it's not set to USD. blank means US because that's the domestic currency of the company. So this scenario is a vendor in Canada that I'm going to buy from, but I'm going to be paying them in US dollars. Okay. Next up, before we can actually enter a PO and do some work, we've got to go set up some products. So let me go to the product line table. And I'm going to grab this guy right here. So product line, for those who are not aware, is usually defines your purchasing parameters. So target buys, default vendors, a lot of things. And when you create a new product in the system, you specify the product line and then the default from the product line load onto the product. So I'm going to go into one of these. I'm going to go to the tax tab. And as you can see, there are two fields for HS code, country of origin. I created these before. I populated these. Okay, so ready to go. So that's your product line. After that, I go and create a product, right? I do my product setup. I've already got one set up. I'll show it to you. I'll drill in. I'll scroll down. Down at the bottom in orange, I've already set these up in advance, but this is a product, country of origin is Canada, HS code 1011. Okay, now, you typically set up an ICSP record and then you decide all the warehouses that it goes into, right? So let me go and set up the product warehouse or the warehouse product record or ICSW. When you create this record, it's taking a copy of what's in ICSP and populating it for that particular warehouse. So for this guy here, I've gone and created my warehouse record. It's got the HS code and country of origin. Okay, but the idea is if I've got this product in 3 different warehouses, I can have this blank in one of the warehouses, which means no tariff supply. In another warehouse, I could have a different country of origin if that's truly how I source that product. But that's the idea. And when I create a new sales order or a new purchase order, the values that go onto their default from the ICSW record, not the ICSP or ICSL. Those are just there for defaults. Okay. Best practice, if you have one product that you import from 2 different countries, 2 different countries of origin, and 2 different duty rates, you'd probably set that SKU up twice. Right. So that covers ICSL, the product line, the product warehouse, catalogs. They too have a place to go put a tariff code. Let me just drill into one as an example. I believe it's under the pricing tab. And if I scroll down, here's a catalog record. Again, country of origin and HS code are populatable on this one as well. In our demo today, we're going to do an example on a product warehouse record, not a catalog, but the functionality is the same. Okay. There we go. So that's the setup. We did countries of origin, HS, vendor. We did all the different products. Again, reminder, it's what's in ICSW that loads onto a sales order and a PO. Catalogs are possible, yes, and for non-stocks. So if you put a non-stock on a sales order or PO, a true non-stock that's not coming up from a catalog, but a true non-stock, the values for the HS and the country will default to blank, and you'll have to put them there manually. But the function does apply. You just got to load them manually. All right, so we're about to do a demo. I'm going to go and put in a purchase order, and I'm going to show you the costing of the, I guess, the journal entry that appears and relevant to tariffs. This is the model that we're doing here. So I'm working in a USA company that's US currency. I'm buying from a vendor that's a country of origin or a country of Canada, currency US, which is the most common scenario that I see from our clients. I'm posting to the GL by average, which is also the most common setup. And when I enter a new PO, the price or the cost that loads on a PO line is the replacement cost. So this is my scenario. Now let's go and do a PO. All right, so I'm taking a product that is in warehouse 10, product's called MP01. The average cost is 10. The replacement cost is 10. I'm about to go do a PO. The tariff code is 20% on this item. I have not bought it before I've just set up this tariff functionality. So I'm going to show you a PO. So POET, purchase order entry. I go grab my Canadian supplier. I hit next. I'll go grab that product that I just went and set up before, the one with the 20% duty on it. What you'll notice is it's here for $10, right? That's my replacement cost. But if I go down to extended down here, I've got a country of origin of Canada and HF code. This loaded because of the value I had in ICSW, or the product warehouse, for that warehouse. Okay, so that's critical. I'm now going to click add. I'm going to click finish. PO number 24 has been created. And I'm going to go receive it, because it's upon receipt that the GL gets hit for the first time, and that's where the tariff functionality comes into play. So I'm in POEI, which is the PO receiving menu. I'm going to do a quick receive. The most recently used, MRU, loads that PO for me. I'm going to do a full receipt and then a final update to actually create the journal entry. So here's my journal. PO 24 has been received. I'm now going to do a final update. And I'll take some shortcuts. Put stuff to file. Click OK. But I now have journal entry 51 and the PO has been received. So I'm going to go to journal entry 51. And here you go. I have a $10 item that historically hit my inventory for $10 and credited an uninvoiced inventory for $10. But in this scenario, because I've added the tariff functionality on this item, my inventory is getting hit for an extra 20%, or $12 in this case, and there's a credit for tariff payable. Now, again, this is the scenario where what I'm paying the vendor has not changed. I am the importer of record. I'm accruing this because I've got to pay a broker, and I'm anticipating that. So this goes into my accruals, my liabilities, and when that broker invoice comes in, I'm going to debit this payable account that's down here. Okay. The other thing that's happened here, if we go back to this, if you recall, and I still have the screen open, so it's frozen in the state it was at, but here's an ICSW record for this product, the one I just bought, before I placed the PO. The replacement cost is 10. The average cost is 10. I'm going to hit refresh, and you're going to see how the average cost is going to jump up to $12. Oh. All right, and that's because I've set up an accrual, a tariff on this item. So the tariff gets added, which means it's getting added to your inventory. And then when you go to sell this on a sales order, my cost of goods sold will have gone up 20%. Okay. So next up, so we've gone through, we've done a PO receiving, we showed the GL impact, the inventory impact. The next side of this is if you're an exporter. CSD has a functionality that if you enter a sales order, you can actually go print that commercial invoice. Let me go do that. So order entry, I'm putting in a customer. Customer doesn't have to have a country equals Canada. This particular one is, but it doesn't check that. But let's assume I'm shipping it outside the country. I'm going to take the same product, got tariff functionality on it. I'm selling it. I bought it for 10, if you recall. I'm selling it for 20. This is US dollars. Even though I'm selling it to a Canadian client, it's because they're set up to be for US currency. If I scroll down here, the HS code and country of origin are loading. because of this product in this warehouse in ICSW have the values there. And that's what loads on here. And that's key that when I go print the commercial invoice, it'll be able to display these values in the commercial invoice. So let me add these. Let me click finish. Order number 70. So I have to go to OEROC. There we go. So there's a menu in the system. Most people or many people don't know about it, but it's for printing a commercial invoice. It can be in any stage of the order, unlike a normal invoice. So I've got a stored report in here already. So we're going to do a one-time copy right here. I'm going to run it to view, but normally you'd probably run this to email. So I'm going to run it to view, and I'm going to show you the commercial invoice in IDM. Typically, you would run the ranges here. Like in our case, we know exactly what order number we want to run it for. If you had a dozen orders that are going out the same day internationally to export them, you could run it for various ranges here, like maybe a customer range or a warehouse or a ship date or an invoice date. Now, remember, these orders don't have to be an invoiced stage yet. Because I know exactly the order number I wanted to run the report for, I'm going to go to the next screen and just enter a list of orders. So MRU will load it there for me, my last number, so it's order 70. Let me click save. The other settings here, set related to. This is if you're related. So if your company is related to the customer you're selling it for, that means it's a sister company, and your prices of exchange are non-arm's length. There's there are different criteria for exporting. There's more information on the help button here if you want it, but that's what this is referring to. Shipped only, like I was mentioning, you could have run those prior ranges for, let's say, all orders for a certain customer that are in shipped stage, in which case you would set it to shipped only equals yes and international only equals yes, and that way would pick up just customers with a country outside of your country and in ship stage. For now, we're specifying an order number. We don't have to do that. Print pre-built kit or KPSK data. This is the scenario where you want your commercial invoice to actually detail the components of a kit on your commercial invoice. And that'll work whether it's build on demand or pre-built. I'll set it to no. We're not doing kits in this example. And I'll go run this guy. This guy is run. I'm going to go to OEIO for this order. And all right, so that's that $20 or so order we just ran, right? Now, if I go to my widget up here and I go to doc management, my commercial invoice for this order is right here. Let me go look at it. So as you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit. It's an IDM template. It has to be designed in advance, but there's a default that comes with the product. It says commercial invoice on it. And if I scroll, there's my bill to, any notes I had. But what's critical here, and unlike a normal invoice, it's got your HS code and country of origin on it. Now, of course, you can tweak the layout and design of this, but it's a commercial invoice. And this, if you're a commercial exporter, you'd know that this is the paperwork you supply as part of your export process for your duties to be assessed upon export. All right, so no GL impact on the sales side. You can print an invoice. The stage doesn't have to be invoiced, and we just viewed it from IDM. All right, so tips and tricks. What are some of the things we've run into over the next little while that I wouldn't mind sharing? So if you decide to proceed with this, you're going to have to go and populate some various tables to get this functioning. For your country table, okay, it's SASTT with a W, and then your tariff tables. Mass maintenance, if you're in CSD, mass maintenance doesn't give you access to those tables. So you'd be able to update them in large volume with your data conversion programs. For all the ones that I've listed right here, mass maintenance does have access to these tables, and of course, so does data conversion. But this one here, APSV, is your vendor master. If you want to go and load the countries on and country of origin on them. Your ICSL is your product line, where we went and loaded HS and countries on them. ICSP, your catalog, and the most important pièce de résistance is your ICSW. That's the one that what you load on here loads onto the sales order and the PO. So this would be your initial first step. Probably the highest volume one would be ICSW. For open PO lines, anything that's any PO already open, they are not retroactively updated when you go and fix or populate ICSW. So if you take 1,000 ICSW records and you go and populate a country of origin and an HS code, all your open POs that were open prior to that event need to be cleaned up and the country of origin and then HS assigned. So that would be in your header, POEH, and your lines, POEL. With a tariff, you're updating your average. It doesn't update your standard. It doesn't update your prices. Obviously, you'd have to go and fix those. For the commercial invoice, if you want to get that going, there's a couple of things that would require to do. One, you have to have access to the menu OEROC, and then you've got an AO setting to go set up. So in AO docs, sales, orders, printing, that's got to be set up. So if I go to the next screen here, I've got a screenshot and I can share this deck. But there's your docs, sales orders, printing. Here you've got your commercial invoice where you got to set up the template and specify it here. Okay, that's got to be done. And if you go to document management, you can actually, you normally go here and probably search for invoices and whatnot. But you actually have to make sure that that same template that you specified in AO actually exists in your environment. I've included a sample of a commercial invoice and the email, the pretty email that you get that has the attachment in it that you could then share with a customer or your export team. And there's your journal entry that we saw before. This one's a little bit different. I actually put a 30% tariff. And that's CSD tariffs in a nutshell. Rather simple functionality. The hard part is deciding how are you going to use it, depending on how you import and whether you're the importer of record.
Oh, Mark, thank you so much for that presentation. We have a number of questions here in chat, so let me start at the very beginning here. So first question is the process in CSD for managing tariffs the same if you're using standard costing, or is it geared specifically towards average costing?
It would be geared towards average because the average will get increased by your tariff. The standard would not.
Okay, thank you. So two more scenarios. What if tariff is applied by broker to some items and not others?
Absolutely. This is managed at a product by product level. So in the example that I had, I believe I'm still sharing my screen, product warehouse record. This product that I'm showing here, MP01, I've gone and put an HS code and country of origin on it. If the tariff doesn't apply, you leave these blank. So it's not all products for a given vendor are applicable. So it's all based on the ICSW, the product warehouse record.
Okay, great. And then the second part of that question, what if local vendors add a separate line item for tariff since they're not applying it to their regular increase, a temporary tariff, if you will? Mm-hmm. And what if the tariff is different for each item on the PO?
Yeah. So I understand that question exactly, or I hope I do. I believe I do. What we've seen clients get is their invoice from their vendor. If, let's say they've placed a PO for 2 lines, the invoice coming back from the vendor has 4 lines on it because they've put a line underneath each line to show the tariff amount. You basically have to add them up. So, in an example, you got a line, it's a $100 line that you're buying off of your POs for $100. It's got 1 line on it. Your vendor sends you an invoice back for $100, and there's one under it that says 20 for tariff. You got to add the 2 of them, because in that scenario there, you are not the importer of record. you're just buying it off someone who's passing that tariff. It's nice that they're detailing it on the AP invoice for you, but in terms of keep punching it in the system, you got to add them up. Otherwise, you're going to understate the cost of that product.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's a toughie. I don't know if you can answer this one directly or if we have to get back, but we are on GUI 11.19.7. We have a vendor that ships from China and Vietnam. Will the tariff pick up the country code from the ship from record?
It's based on so the ship from would be a vendor ship from.
Yes, it's one vendor with
Yeah.
two different ship froms.
And the country varies on the ship from?
Country varies on the ship from China, ship from Vietnam, but it's
Yeah.
one vendor.
Okay. So as long as the country on the PO is foreign, the functionality will work. The rate that it takes will be the rate on the PO line. So I'm gonna show that to you. I don't have a PO already open, but let me open up on the same. All right. So I've just entered this a PO for a vendor. When I go and buy this product, okay, it's this country of origin that loaded from ICSW that's going to drive the rate. So the rate that gets assigned to this is going to be based on the SASGT table, which I had two rates set up there, 20% and 30%, 20% for Canada. So it's going to pull a rate of Canada. If you're now going to say from this vendor, I'm going to buy it from China, you would have to edit this and change it here. And grab this guy. In changing that, when you receive this PO, it'll go to SASGT, hook up the HS with the country, see a rate of 30 and accrue 30%. But you've got to go and change it on the line. It's that dictates the rate, not the ship from. So I guess your question, is it the ship from? The answer is no. What is it? It's you got to go to the line and override it. That's why best practice is you'd set up 2 SKUs for that product if you're truly sourcing it from 2 countries to cut out on the possible confusion or human error. But if you're not going to do that, you've got to remember to do what I just did. When you do the PO, you got to go to the line and override the country. Hope that's clear and answers your question.
Does that help, Richard?
Just sets the work around business practices, that's all.
Yeah.
Great.
Not an uncommon scenario.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So here's a
Yeah.
detailed question too. We use average plus add-on. Many of our suppliers who are importers of record are choosing to give us surcharges that are separate line charges on the invoice.
Yeah.
Since they're not increasing their prices on our PO cost cannot change. To accommodate this, we are currently using capitalized add-ons to add to some of the items have surcharges and some don't. So we're putting these add-ons on our buying lines. Does anyone else have thoughts on this?
Yeah, so that's a common suggested path. You pointed it out yourself in your question. You can put an add-on on the bottom of a purchase order, but it's gonna, if you capitalize that, it's gonna prorate that add-on across the products on the PO, but it does it, across all lines, either by quantity, cube, or value. So you brought it up yourself. What do you do with the lines that you don't want the cost added? So that scenario, it works if all lines on your PO it's okay that they all take an equal portion of the tariff. The most common scenario is that, or in some scenarios at least, that won't work. And how the system has to work, if you want it to truly be accurate, you'd have to go to add that tariff to the line when you get the AP invoice.
Okay. So just a bolt on to that question, we have vendors that have an address in one country but can ship from a different country than their APSV address.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's the same question as 2 questions ago, in that
Yeah,
the actual country on your vendor, it just has to be foreign, but it doesn't go to look at that country to load the rate. It goes to the line of the PO. It takes the country of origin on the line, like I've got here, and it goes to SASGT and grabs the rate there. So if I go to SASGT, just to finish the loop, I'm going to show you where it'll pick up a 30% rate, because this code, this country picks up 30%. So you got to override it on the line. So you have a default on ICSW, it loads on the PO. If that's not the country you're buying from this time, if it's sourced from somewhere else, yeah, so unfortunately, you got to override it on the line when you have a game time decision and you change the country on from PO to PO for the same product. It's got to be an override on the PO line.
okay, that makes sense. Another question. We purchase from U.S. vendors and they're charging tariffs. Demo you're showing appears to only work if we purchase from a non-U.S. supplier.
That's
Can you
right.
verify this doesn't work when we purchase from a vendor that's in the same country as the company in CSD?
Correct. The tariff functionality won't work unless the vendor is set up with a different country. So a country other than FASC, which is where you declare your country. If you're the importer of record, you want to accrue, and you're going to pay a third-party invoice for tariffs, you got to make sure that vendor country is not equal to your country. If you're not the importer of record and they're just passing the cost on to you, there's no broker invoice coming later. You simply need to increase your costs on the PO to account properly.
Okay, great. And then in the demo, there must have been something you were showing, and the question is, can you show us where this will show in APECE? And Katie, I may need a little help there in terms of where that was in the demo that you're referring to.
Yeah, it's the using the tariff mark that you demoed.
Yeah,
So I tested the same thing in our
Yeah.
system in CSD, but in APECE, when
Yep.
you're costing, we can't figure out like where would that display. That's our challenge. Like,
yeah. So APEC is your vendor invoice center, where you go and enter your AP invoice. You don't see the PO cost and then a tariff cost in that screen. You just have one field and it's your cost. So if your vendor's sending you, I'm assuming this, you didn't actually say this, but if your vendor's detailing the tariff on their AP invoice, you've got to sum them up and override your cost to that summed cost in APEC. But you don't see a separate field for tariffs in APEC.
Okay, another question. Did you say the HS and COO in Prodline inherited down to the ICSW level as default information?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's the ICSW that loads on your PO and your sales order. So that's the one that counts. ICSL and ICSP are just populated to help you when you're creating products to load default values.
Okay. When a tariff is changed, do old purchase orders get updated automatically, or does someone need to update them manually?
Yeah. There's no magic button. You've got to go back and clean up the past, which means you got to break out your mass maintenance if you're in CSD and go to POEH and POEL and go populate your country of origin and the AHS codes. It's actually it's not that big a deal. It may sound that way, but it's only a transition. It's a one-time thing you got to go through.
Okay. Can we update ICSP and ICSW record and SAAMM to add HS codes?
Yes. Yep. SAAMM just being the acronym for mass maintenance, and the answer is yes.
Okay. Can you show again the GL entry for the OE transaction?
There is no GL entry for the OE transaction. I didn't show one, but just so happens, this is like a cooking show, you know, where you got the roast beef, you show how you marinate it and do everything else, and then you got to pull it another one that's already cooked. So it just so happens, I'm still showing my screen, right? Just before the webinar, I went and posted a sales order in anticipation this question would come up. And this is a sales order for the exact same order I just processed. But this is a different order number, but the same product, same client. So it was a $20 item, if you recall, we bought it for $10 from the vendor with a $2 tariff. So the average got bumped up to 12. So here we are. I invoiced this order. AR gets hit by 20. Sales is hit by 20. Cost of goods sold by 12. There's no implication. There's no tariff being hit when you sell the item. The cost of goods sold already has the tariff cost in it, because the theory is you purchase it, bring it in, and then sell it. So no GL impact on sales orders, only on purchasing.
Okay. Just a couple more here, Mark. So one, this looks like a verification ask. In reference to the ship from comment, the quote, country of origin refers to the country where a product was grown, produced, or manufactured. It's not necessarily the country where the product is shipped from.
True.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And then one more here from Richard in GUI 11.19.7. Line item extended does not appear to have a COO field.
Sorry, was that OE or PO?
Yeah,
PO.
Richard, can you answer that? PO?
PO.
I
I just went into POET and clicked on extended for the line item. And again, we're in GUI, we're not in CSD.
Okay.
And GUI does not appear to have the country of origin as a field.
That got added at a later date. I
Of course.
thought it was in place by 11/19. I would do two things. One, when you go to in GUI, when you go to the top left, there's file, and I think it's options where you can design your screen and you can hide fields. Make sure you're not hiding it. Second, I would query the table POEL and see if there's a country field in your database. It's possible that version didn't have it in there. I believe it was brought over in 10.0, but it's possible it wasn't brought in that version for GUI. But that's what I would check.
Great, thank you, Mark. At this point, we have no more questions. I'll just give it another little bit here, see if anyone has any final questions that they need to ask. And in the meantime, Mark, I've got a question for you. So if someone wants to be able to know more about their particular situation with tariffs, who do they contact at NSA? How do they go about that?
Yeah, so hold on. You can email me. You can email support@nsacom.com. And I'm hesitating. I believe that's the support email. Sorry, wait a minute. Let me not show my email. I believe that's our support email, but let me just confirm it for a second.
Yeah, I think it's support@nsacom.com.
Yeah, there it is on the screen right there. So email support@NSA. We've got people on support. Be glad to help you straighten out any questions you have.
Excellent. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for today's presentation. Obviously, it's one that was much anticipated by a lot of folks and well attended. I thank everybody for their time today, for taking an hour out of your day to attend this session. If you do have more questions, again, you know how to contact us, and we will be sending out this recording to everybody that attended. So with that, that's a wrap. And again, thank you, Mark.
My pleasure. Thanks. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.